Paintshop Pro can be used for various purposes, including creating some custom wishing cards. You can use a pre-made template, or you can create your own custom size using a script. I'm going to be using this script and just make a default size card. This at 300 pixels per inch, that will make a 4-inch card by 3 inches. And this script will create a custom template for the card and the matching envelope for it. And that's what I have. So now I have a 2-layer card template and a 5-layer envelope template. Let's start working with the card template. I'm going to be using 2 fun graphics from Kimmy Craft. One that little mouse and a row of little hearts. So I'm just going to slide and copy this by sliding onto my card image, and I'll do the same with the row of hearts, and I'll minimize everything. So now those things were moved at the bottom. Using my pick tool, I'll put the hearts at the bottom of my card, and I'll move the little mouse a little further up there. This little row of hearts is too long for my card, so I'll just resize it. So with my pick tool, I'll just shrink it down a bit and see if I can shrink it down to the size of my card. A little bit more. And there it is. Maybe a tiny bit more so it doesn't cut off on the edges. And to give some volume, I will just add a 3D effect on the effect, 3D effect, drop shadow. And I'll just add like 2 pixels, just so it gives some volume. Now my template is all gray. Of course, it's not very pretty. So I'm going to be using a gradient. With my dropper tool, I'll left click on one of the light colors heart and right click on the darker ones. This will give me in the material palette a foreground that is light and a background that is dark. And clicking on the swatch, I'll go to the gradient and find the foreground background gradient. Maybe I'll want to have my light at the bottom, so I'll go 180. Activate my card side using the magic wand. I select this area with my flood fill tool. I just flood fill. And I can repeat the same thing for the other side. So the magic wand and the flood fill, which means that both sides are going to be having the same gradient. And I can deselect with Control D. And I have something kind of fun. Let's move that little mouse a little further down, so I have room to add some text. I'll be using kind of a fancy lettering, but you can choose whatever you want. And I'll put just for you. Well, of course, it's not very obvious because I'm using the same colors as the background. So I'm going to be removing the foreground, and in the background, clicking on it, I'll just find this color, but I'll make it much darker, so it becomes really a dark red. And I accept. This is a bit small, so I simply enlarge it as I want. And that's it. So that's going to be the card itself. Now let's go with the envelope. So I have my envelope template here. I'm going to be using similar colors. I'm going to be using those hearts again. So I will just click and drag onto my template. I remove this. So these hearts, I'll just put them on top of everything so it's going to be easier to see. Kind of move them out of the way. I'm going to be using them again for the colors. So using my dropper, I'll choose maybe a medium pink and choose a solid color. So I'll have that solid here. With a magic wand, I will select the area for the main part of the envelope, which is this layer. So select here and flood fill with that pink. I'll be using a different color for the other areas, like the other flaps. So again, with my dropper tool, I'll choose the lighter color, activate one layer. See, this is the left side. With the magic wand, select the left side. If you have your area that is selected again, make sure here in the mode it's replace. So every time you click at one place, it will remove the previous one. And I flood fill. So I'll change layer, magic wand, select, flood fill. I'll take the bottom part, select, flood fill. And the top flap, select, and flood fill. And I deselect. I can use Control D to deselect. Now what I want to have is a few hearts in a corner. So I'll go with my selection tool. I'll use the freehand selection tool and I'll zoom in so I can see better. And I'm using point to point. You can use the freehand if you want. Using the freehand selection tool, I can just select some areas. So these hearts I will select, and on the actual layer here, we don't see very much, it's on top. You right click, promote the selection to layer, so whatever I selected is now on its own. So I can deselect with Control D, and I can use my pick tool and move this group of hearts, and I'll put them in the corner here. Well, of course, it doesn't show very much. I'm using the same color, so what I'll do, I'll add an effect. So effect, 3D effects, drop shadow, and I'll do 0 and 0, so it will give some definition all around. So now you can see those pink hearts, and I can add now a regular drop shadow that will be like 2 pixels to give the volume. Well, let's zoom out what it looks like. It's pretty cute. And if I want to have another set of hearts, I can go again and cut a piece, or I can duplicate this one. So I can right click, duplicate, and then move the copy. I can move it here. Why not? Now I would like to use this row of hearts and put it on the flap. So this is pretty big. And so I'll reduce the size so it can fit better on the flap. That's still big. I can go down more. Okay. So this is something I would like to have. So now I will add the 3D effects. I'll go with the drop shadow with the 0 like I did earlier, just to have a definition around those that are the same color. And I'll add with a 3D effect again, the regular 2 pixel shadow. Now, since I want it on the flap, it will have to be upside down. So I can go under Image, Free Rotate, rotate at 180 degrees. It doesn't matter if it's left or right at that point. And make sure that all layer is unchecked. Rotate around the center of the canvas or not does not really matter because you're going to be moving it again. So here it is. It's moved here. And I have a fun card. So at this point, the only thing I have to do now is print it. So I can print using File, Print Layout, and I take my image, put it on my page. The script made sure that the template will fit within a regular 8.5 by 11 page. And I print. And once I'm done with this one, I can delete, hit the delete key, and put my card. Don't resize anything because at this point everything is perfectly matching. The envelope is perfect for the card. So here again for the card, I just print. When the print commands are finished, you can just close the print layout. I don't really need to save it, so I'm just back to my image. And that's all you have to do. Once it's printed, you cut out the outside, you fold, you glue, and you have a perfect card for any occasion, whether it's Father's Day, Mother's Day, Christmas, holiday, congratulations, wedding, even an invitation to an event. It's that simple.